Welcome to the deep dive. We've got quite a collection of sources today,
Right.
and they tackle this huge idea, terraforming, but from a really different angle than you might expect.
That's right. We're looking at how to make other planets, potentially habitable for Earth life.
But it's not the usual sci-fi picture, is it? Not just giant machines and brute force engineering.
No, not really. The material we're digging into presents terraforming, less like a construction project and more. Well, more like growing a planet, almost like farming.
Growing a planet. Okay, that's the mission for today then. Let's explore this idea, the science, the philosophy behind treating worlds less like things to be engineered and more like maybe gardens to be cultivated.
Can we really cultivate worlds? It sounds ambitious, maybe even a bit strange, but the science is fascinating.
Let's get into it. Okay, so the standard picture of terraforming, the one we usually see, our sources definitely talk about that first.
They do. That's the more traditional view. Think huge engineering projects.
Like what specifically?
Well, things like maybe deliberately crashing asteroids packed with water or gases onto a planet to, jumpstart an atmosphere, or deploying enormous mirrors in orbit to warm up the surface.
Right, big dramatic interventions,
Yeah.
very tech fixes everything.
Exactly. It's about changing the planet's basic physics and chemistry through these massive, deliberate actions, imposing change.
But the angle in these sources, it flips that script.
Completely. It suggests terraforming could actually be driven mostly by biology. Maybe started by tech, sure, but then life itself takes over.
So the whole analogy shifts, not building, but farming.
Precisely. Farming a planet. It's
Yeah.
a real mind bender.
And the sources even suggest who the first farmers might be, not quite what you'd picture, I guess.
No, definitely not people in spacesuits with hose. The idea, and this echoes folks like astrobiologist Christopher McKay, is that the first move involves ecosystem engineering, using microbes.
Microbes, like bacteria.
Yeah, bacteria could be the pioneers, the very first terraformers.
Just tiny organisms doing their thing, but planetary scale. That kind of grounds the concept, doesn't it? Starting small. And the main target planet for this kind of approach seems to be Mars, right?
Mars is definitely the primary candidate discussed in, well, most of this material.
Okay. And Mars, as the sources point out, it's not exactly move-in ready for Earth life.
Oh, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it has some good points, frozen water, CO2 ice, useful elements in the ground, but the downsides are huge.
As such as...
Well, the atmosphere is incredibly thin, so you've got almost no air pressure and virtually no protection from intense solar and cosmic radiation.
And no global magnetic field like Earth's either.
Right, which is crucial for deflecting that radiation and holding onto an atmosphere if you build one. And then there's the soil itself.
Toxic, I read.
Yeah, it's full of compounds called perchlorates. Pretty nasty stuff for most life as we know it.
Okay, so thin air, radiation bath, toxic dirt. Sounds pretty grim for gardening.
It does. But this is where the sources bring in Earth's own history as a kind of blueprint. Life here faced seemingly impossible conditions, too.
You mean how Earth wasn't always this nice green and blue place?
Exactly. Billions of years ago, Earth was totally different. Life didn't just find a comfy home. It actively made its home. The material highlights cyanobacteria, ancient microbes.
Earth's original terraformers.
You could absolutely say that. Over millions, hundreds of millions of years, they pumped out oxygen, fundamentally changing the atmosphere, building soils, created the conditions for, well, everything else that followed.
So life itself as a planetary engineering force. And scientists today are actually trying to harness that, like designing microbes for Mars.
That's a major area
Yeah.
of research, yes.
Yeah.
Engineering extremophiles.
Extremophiles. Those are the super tough microbes, right?
Yeah, organisms that naturally live in conditions that would kill us. Extreme heat, cold, pressure, acid, radiation, you name it.
And there was that one specific bug mentioned, really radiation resistant.
Ah, yes, Didococcus radiodurans. It's famous. This bacterium can basically piece its DNA back together after being blasted with radiation thousands of times stronger than a lethal dose for humans.
Wow.
Okay? And the point is, life can handle incredibly harsh conditions.
Yeah.
So the idea of starting with super resilient, maybe engineered microbes on Mars starts to seem more plausible. They could potentially get a foothold where other life couldn't.
That kind of toughness makes sense for Mars. And what about those closed ecosystem projects like Melissa? How does that fit in?
Notice that's the microecological life support system alternative, supported by the European Space Agency. It's a perfect example of this thinking in practice, just on a smaller scale.
Right.
They're essentially building these self-contained loops, using bacteria, algae, and eventually plants to recycle absolutely everything: air, water, waste, and produce food. Like a mini biosphere in a box.
A tiny Earth.
Pretty much. And the big question the sources raise is, can we take those principles, that kind of closed-loop, life-driven system, and scale it up? Could it work not just in a space station, but, planet-wide?
Which seems to lead right into this idea they call the Terraform protocol.
Yes, the Terraform protocol. It's really the core concept for this biological approach. It's the opposite of just, smashing things or building giant structures.
So how would it work, according to the sources?
The vision is you'd send robotic probes. But instead of construction bots, they're more like robotic gardeners. They land and plant specially bioengineered microbial seeds.
Planting seeds on Mars. I like that.
Me too. And these initial microbes would be nurtured, maybe fed by nutrient packs the probes deploy, powered by solar energy, and then they just spread.
Slowly, I imagine.
Very slowly.
Yeah.
Over decades, maybe longer. They'd start breaking down those toxic perchlorates in the soil, changing the chemistry, releasing gases bit by bit, just starting to thicken the atmosphere.
Okay, so it's a patient game.
Extremely patient. Then, once conditions improve just slightly, you introduce the next wave. Maybe specially designed algae or fungi or hardy mosses. It's ecological succession.
Like how a forest grows back after a fire, but engineered and on a whole planet.
Exactly. Each stage prepares the ground or the air for the next, transforming the planet organically over centuries, maybe millennia. It's less construction, more guided growth. Tending a planetary garden.
Tending a cosmic garden. That phrase really captures the difference. And this biological focus, it ties into another big idea mentioned, the Gaia hypothesis.
Yeah, there's a definite philosophical link there. The Gaia view sees Earth's life not just as adapting to the environment, but as part of a larger system that actively regulates the planet.
So life helps control things like temperature and atmosphere composition.
That's the core idea. Life and the physical planet co-evolve. Ecosystems influence climate, chemistry, even the planet's reflectivity, its albedo.
Can you give an example from the sources?
Sure. They mention things like how large forests can actually generate their own rainfall patterns, or how lichens, that crusty stuff on rocks, are crucial in breaking down bare rock into the beginnings of soil. Microbes in the ocean and soil play huge roles in cycling elements like carbon and nitrogen, regulating the whole climate system.
Okay.
So if life has shaped Earth so profoundly, the thinking goes, could we perhaps design life to initiate similar planet-shaping processes on somewhere like Mars?
It really does feel like a fundamental shift in how we'd approach other worlds.
It absolutely is. It reframes terraforming away from sort of domination, bending a dead world to our will, towards something more like cultivation or stewardship.
Less about exploiting a resource, more about inviting life to spread.
Exactly. Inviting life to bloom across the cosmos.
Yeah.
We wouldn't just be putting life on Mars. We'd be enabling life to grow Mars, in a way.
Inviting life to bloom. Powerful stuff. But okay, this vision, as appealing as it might sound in some ways, it comes with huge questions. Practical ones, ethical ones. The sources dig into these too.
They do. And the biggest practical challenge is time. This isn't flipping a switch.
Right.
This biological successional approach.
Right.
It would take a very, very long time. We're likely talking centuries, probably millennia, before Mars could potentially support complex life, let alone humans walking around without suits.
A very different timescale than dropping an asteroid. And then the ethics, those seem even trickier.
Oh, definitely. These are the really profound questions, like, what if Mars does have its own native life?
Yeah.
Even if it's just microbes deep underground, do we have the right to potentially wipe it out by introducing our own, possibly more aggressive Earth life?
The ultimate invasive species scenario. It makes you think about our responsibility.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it opens up that even broader question. Do seemingly lifeless planets have any rights or value in their current state? Are they just blank canvases for us, or should we respect them as they are, even if they're sterile?
The sources sort of frame this as a tension between two big ideas, right?
Yeah, essentially. On one side, you have planetary protection.
Meaning, don't contaminate other worlds.
Exactly. Keep places like Mars pristine in case there's alien life there, however simple. Seeding Mars with Earth microbes could destroy the very evidence we're looking for. It's about scientific preservation.
Okay. And the other side?
The other perspective sees terraforming almost as, well, as life's purpose, maybe. The idea that life naturally spreads, diversifies, expands. From this viewpoint, extending Earth's biosphere isn't just something we might do, it's maybe the next logical step for life itself, fulfilling a kind of cosmic potential.
Wow. Okay, so preservation versus propagation almost. Huge questions, no easy answers there.
None at all. And the sources don't really pick a side. They just lay out these different powerful perspectives that humanity will have to grapple with if we ever get serious about this. It shows space exploration isn't just engineering, it's deeply ethical.
So wrapping this up, the main thrust here is this potential shift in thinking about making other worlds habitable, away from giant engineering towards, well, planetary gardening.
Right. The future of terraforming might look more like a greenhouse than a heavy construction site. And this vision isn't pure fantasy. It builds on real science happening now.
Like the synthetic biology engineering life.
Exactly. That plus understanding extremophiles and developing those closed-loop life support systems like Melissa. It all points towards the possibility, however distant, of large-scale ecological engineering.
It really reframes our potential role, doesn't it? Maybe transforming worlds not by force, but by growth.
Cultivation, not conquest. It's a powerful alternative vision.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a final thought to chew on. If we embrace this idea of transforming worlds through growth, maybe one day we won't just explore planets. Maybe we'll actually learn how to grow them.